Hi guys. Today's podcast is a little impromptu podcast that's happening on the floor of my bedroom right next to my bed that I want to crawl into and allow to swallow me up right now. Have you ever had those days where you can't quite pinpoint what's happening, but like there is something here, right? I'm pointing to my sternum, like maybe a little bit below it, like where your diaphragm is, the upper part of your stomach, and there's just like a pit. I actually just got my hair done. So if you're watching the video, which you probably aren't because most people listen and they don't watch, my hair is a little bit shorter. It's a little bit darker. I have a little less extensions. And it's interesting how a hair change can like shift your persona. And maybe this is just for me, but I made the choice this week to reduce the amount of extensions that I have in my hair to go a little more natural. And it's so interesting to me because if I'm being honest, it's kind of put me in a place where I realize that I still have a lot of work to do in total acceptance. Like I'm sitting here with more of what is my natural hair, but still not totally my natural hair. And my hair is very thin. My hair is very fine. If you haven't followed me for a while or you've never caught it, I do struggle with androgenetic alopecia. And I feel like that's a whole other episode that I need to do at some point because it's a real thing. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, but there's something about hair for me that is a sign or an indicator of my femininity. And I'm not saying that that's right. I think it's a false, it's a lie, right? It's an error in my thinking. And it has for so many years told me or taught me that women or we are more feminine if we have beautiful hair. And I have so many things I'm so grateful for. I have so many blessings in my life. I have a very healthy body. I have a wonderful family. I have so many things. I have talents and gifts, and we all do. And the one of the things I do not have is good hair. And I know, like, if for some of you guys listening, it might be like, oh my gosh, cry me a river. Like of all the things you don't have, you're complaining that you don't have good hair. I can't explain it. But what I can say is that anyone listening who has struggled or does struggle with hair loss, and I'm going to speak mostly to the women because I don't know what it feels like as a man to lose your hair. But what I had said to someone recently about my hair loss is I said, and it was a man that I was talking to, I said, I think the only way I could explain it to you is I believe hair for me is as important as I have seen ability to provide and sexual function to be for a man. Like those two things for men in my life who are friends, they have reported to me that those two things, sexual function and the ability to provide for their family, like financially provide for their family, are important. And when one of those two things feels like it's compromised, they feel like their manliness is compromised. And so I would argue or challenge, and I believe those women listening that have been there, are experiencing hair loss or would agree that hair loss or hair thinning or the fear that my hair is going to be lost, right? Maybe the patches when I start to see scalp, that is as threatening to me, like as my femininity, as those other things are to a man. And I'm not a man, so I guess I'm kind of saying this. Clearly, I'm not a man. I do have a lot of masculine in me. I've been told that many, many times. But yeah, so I think, when I really look at it, I have hid behind extensions for 8 years. And I think over and over, I keep saying, okay, I'm going to do less. I'm going to do less. I'm going to do less. And I do. And then I put them back in. And here I am again, trying to go toward less. And I'm trying to believe that less is more. And my hair looks cute. She did such a good job. We kept it still bright. There's a little bit of dimension. So there's some dark streaks in it. It's a little bit shorter. There's only one very thin row of extensions in for some added thickness, and still I'm feeling like my hair is not enough. And it's really interesting. I came home and I texted my friend. I was telling him, I said, I realized today. So I guess this is the first lesson I'm going to tell you, because today I want to tell you 8 lessons that I have learned over the past week. Okay? 8 lessons that I've either learned or 8 lessons that I've been reminded of. I might also call them 8 gifts that I've been blessed with in some pretty difficult circumstances over the past week. And difficult is relative, right? So difficult compared to my average week. But yeah, what I had said to him is I said, man, okay, gift or realization number 1 is I have come so far in learning to love myself. I have. I love who I am so much more today than I ever have before, ever. I love myself more this year than last year. I loved myself last year more than the year before. And I think every year it gets progressively more. I would say, I do believe that around 39 for me was like my shifting point where I was like, oh shit, there's Heidi. I love that person. I love her. And I've said this before and I will say it again. I truly do believe that my time with Dave, that was the biggest gift out of it. One of the greatest gifts was learning to love myself for all of who I was, because he truly did love me for all of who I was and for who I wasn't. But we're still a work in progress, and I am still a work in progress. And today I said, man, I love who I am. And I recognize today that I still have so much further to go. I have a ways to go before I have total acceptance of self. Because coming home from the salon with a little bit less hair, a little bit less fake hair, and having it be something where I kind of have a pit in my stomach, or I view myself as less beautiful, or there's just moments of insecurity. And guys, I hesitate saying this stuff because I understand that like a lot of people might look at me and say, what the heck are you complaining about? But I want to let you know that no matter who you are, no matter who you watch, every single one of us have insecurities that are relative to the life that we live. We do. We have things that take up space in our heads. The same way anyone listening to this has things that take up space in their head. We have things that pull negative energy from us and away from the positive things that we should be focusing on. And this is one of them. So I'm here today, guys, because I think I mentioned this at the beginning. This is a very impromptu podcast. I wasn't planning on doing this one. In fact, I planned to take a break over Christmas and New Year. That might change. And I already had all my podcasts planned. This one, I don't know where I'm going to fit it, but I'm going to fit it in somewhere because I have something on my heart. I have a little pit of anxiety, or I don't even know what it is. There's something there. And I think it's the culmination of an unexpected weekend that took me from North Dakota to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where my child was having emergency surgery at a time when some things were being shared and spread online that really dug up a grave for me. It was a lot. And not only did it affect me personally in all the ways, I think it affected some of the people in my life in ways that I don't love, and some of the people who I care about. And over the weekend, and we'll dive into the circumstances, I was in a place where I needed to be strong for my kids. I needed to be strong for everyone there, right? And so coming home, where now I'm in my home alone, I don't really need to be strong for anyone. I think I get to be weak for a minute, and I don't think that there's any fault in that. I don't think that there's any shame in being weak and allowing myself to vulnerably and allowing myself to vulnerably share with a journal of a sort, which this podcast right now is acting as a journal, to help me get these feelings and emotions out, figure out what's happening in my heart and my head. I did put pen to paper and I jotted down, like I said, 8 gifts or 8 realizations or lessons that I had over this week. And I do plan to share that. But I think what happens for me is when I feel this pit, it feels like stuckness for me. It is stuckness. And the absolute last thing I want to do right now or during these times is anything. Like, I don't want to get my to-do list done, which feels completely daunting and overwhelming. I don't want to go get my mail. I don't want to make my bed. Luckily, my bed's already made. I don't want to do anything. The only thing I actually want to do is go sit in my car in peace and quiet and like hide, lay in the bed that's next to me and go to sleep and just feel sorry for myself. Maybe eat some food that I probably, that doesn't benefit me, that will only make me feel sick by eating it. All I want to do during times like this is numb myself in some way, shape, or form. And I know that the thing I should do the least is find a way to numb myself, because numbing my feelings and emotions now is only deferring the pain that is meant to be felt. It's deferring it for a later date at the highest interest rate. This is something I have said for years and years, whether it's alcohol or drugs or sex or you name it, whatever the addiction is, when we use those painkillers to numb the pain of our lives, whether we know what that pain is from or not. Like right now, I don't even really know what it's from, right? But when we use painkillers to numb us from the pain that we are feeling, we're like, ouch, this freaking hurts. I don't want to feel it. I'm going to drink, or I'm going to do these drugs, or whatever it is. Anything that is numbing. Work is no exception. When we numb, we are deferring pain that we must feel. We're deferring it for a later date at the highest interest rate. So when we feel it after the high wears off or after the numbing wears off, that pain that we are in 100% inevitably going to feel at the end of that numbing is going to hurt even more. And then when it hurts, what is human instinct? Human instinct is to numb it again. Crap, well, now I feel it even worse. I'm going to numb it again. So I'm going to drink more, or I'm going to have sex, or whatever it is. I'm going to do these things to numb that pain, push it down because I don't want to feel this. Right? And what I've realized is that for me, and for a lot of the people that I work with, have worked with, the best thing to do is to learn to self-soothe. It's a term that I learned recently. And self-soothing for me first starts with allowing myself to sit in my pain. Just like I'm doing right now, right? Sitting in my pain, but not just sitting there and processing the pain. There is emotion that is inside of my body right now. And when you are there is emotion inside of your body. I'm sure most of you listening to this right now are there because we are human. And to be human is to feel pain for existing. You're not abnormal. We have emotion inside of our bodies, right? It's flowing through us. It actually, for most of us, it's not flowing through us. It's stuck. We have emotion that is stuck. And most of the time when we feel that emotion that is stuck, that anxiety pit or whatever you want to call it, the last thing we want to do is we want to let it come out, right? We don't want to let people see us cry. We don't want them to see us vulnerable, to see us weak, or to be perceived as weak. So we shove it down. And when we shove that emotion down, let me just say this, emotion is meant to flow freely. Someone once pointed out to me, it's motion. Emotion is meant to be in motion. It is meant to flow through our bodies, not sit in our bodies. When it sits in our bodies, the best thing I can compare it to, it's like a zit. I know that's not really a visual you want to think about right now, but think of when you have a zit or an infection in your body, right? I'm not even going to say a zit, we're going to say an infection. When there is an infection, that pus, it needs to come out. It needs to be cleaned. But the more we try and cover the infected area with bandages and different things without cleaning it, without allowing the damage or the dirtiness to come out, let that stuff come out. The more we suppress, the more infected the wound begins to get. The more infected it is underneath the surface. And at some point, we got to go in and get that crap cut out. Right? We need to go get medical attention that really cuts it out and makes it much more painful, that deferred interest rate, than had we just cleaned the wound to begin with. So emotion is the same way. When we have emotion or feelings or anxiety or fear or anything negative that we're scared to let come out, when we suppress it, we are essentially putting a bandage over a dirty wound. We are allowing that infection to grow inside of us. We are allowing it to spread to our system. We are putting ourselves in a position where later we're going to have to get serious help to clean out that infection because it will explode. We will bleed all over the people who do not deserve our blood. And I've done that before. I can speak from experience on this because I have done that. And I think a lot of the reason why I try now, and I'm not perfect, but I try to let the words and the emotions and the feelings come out when I feel them, is because I have had a tendency to bleed all over my kids or the people that I love the most. And I think that's what happens most often. Like, the people who get bled on aren't our neighbors. They're not our friends. They're not our coworkers, right? They're the ones who we love the most. They're our spouse. They are our children. They are our mom or our dad. They are our best friend. They are the ones who have given us the most love and trust, right? We tend to bleed on them because we refuse to clean out our wound. So I'm a big believer in journaling, a huge believer in journaling. And in fact, the reason why I'm doing this podcast is because I started journaling my weekend and week. And these insecurities I have already referenced about hair. And then I was like, all right, what are the 8 gifts that I've learned in this? Like, what are my 8 realizations from this? And so I want to share them. So the very first thing I'm going to share, I already kind of shared one. I shared that I have a lot of work to do to achieve total acceptance of self. Excuse me. Hold on. Let me take a sip. All right. If you didn't hear that, I said I already shared one of them. It's the 8th one, which is I still have a lot of work to do to achieve total acceptance of self. Another gift or realization is that there are things in life I can control, and there are things in life I cannot control. Heidi, when are you going to have the wisdom to know the difference? Isn't that the serenity prayer? It's something like that. Like, what, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom, like, oh gosh, what the heck is it? Hold on. Now I got to look up the serenity prayer. Bear with me. Let's do this. Serenity prayer. Here we go. Serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So right now, I guess realization or reminder number 1 is that serenity prayer. God, grant me the courage, right? Or the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. Grant me the courage to change the things I can, right? And then the wisdom to know the difference. So there was a lot of uncontrollable circumstances this last weekend. I had flown for pleasure to North Dakota on Saturday. I land, and I don't have my kids right now. Kids are with dad. Cash and Ruby, we're going to go on a cruise with Chris. So Cash and Ruby are my 2 kids. Chris is their dad, my ex-husband. And so I go to North Dakota, and I landed in North Dakota around the same time that Chris and the kids landed in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, because they were going to take off the next morning out of Fort Lauderdale on their Caribbean cruise. And so I land, I talk to the kids, we say goodnight. I go to bed at about 9:30 North Dakota time. Like, I'm out like a light because I'm 41 and maybe it's my hormones. I don't know, but I get tired really easy these days. I'm out like a light. I wake up about 7:30. It was a very long night of sleep. And I woke up to 5 missed calls from Cash. Text messages said like 3 text messages from Chris, 2 text messages from Cash. And I'm like, what the heck happened? I didn't even read the messages. I had clicked on my phone log and I could see all these missed calls, and it was all through the night. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? So I call Chris. I didn't even read, didn't want to take the time to read. I'm freaking out. I call Chris, and Cash, my son, had answered the phone. Hi, Mom. Hi, buddy. What's going on? I'm in the ER. And I'm like, what? You're in the ER? Why are you in the ER? And he said, I have appendicitis and I have to get surgery. And so poor Cash is in another state in Fort Lauderdale. Not only does he have to get an appendectomy on, I think it was Sunday at this point. But he also has the guilt, as I'm talking to him, the guilt of knowing that because of appendicitis, he and dad and Papa and grandma and, Ruby couldn't go on this cruise. And he was kind of talking about it, and I was hearing him process, and he was so sad and he was bummed he was in the hospital. And obviously my first thing, as any mom would do, as soon as I hung up the phone, I found literally the only flight that day out of the small town that I was in North Dakota. And I caught that flight, hopped it to Fort Lauderdale, because I was not going to let my son go into surgery and recover in a state that I'm not in without me there. So my day, I went from landing in North Dakota to the next morning, hopping a flight to Fort Lauderdale. As I showed up to the hospital that night, because I couldn't get there till that night, there were connecting flights. Cash had been brought out of surgery, so he made it through his, thank goodness. Can we just stop right now and talk about how grateful and how blessed we are that when Chris heard Cash say the night before that his stomach hurt, that he had the wherewithal to lay him down, check for appendicitis, because this is a thing when Chris and I were married, we were always worried about with our kids, because I had appendicitis when I was 12 years old, same age as Cash. And so anytime my kids would have a stomach ache, I would freak out and tell Chris, I think it's appendicitis. We'd take him to the hospital, and never has it been appendicitis until the one time I'm not with him. And then it's appendicitis. So, but I mean, Chris taking Cash in Saturday night, taking seriously what Cash said and actually having him seen. What a gift and what a blessing, because had Chris and Cash and Ruby, had Chris said, hey, Cash, you're fine, buddy. Get on the ship. You'll be fine. You just need to lay down. They would have set sail. Cash and his appendix would not have lasted. It would have ruptured on that ship. And from what I understand, you only have so many hours after an appendix ruptures to get urgent care, because your body can go into sepsis, which is deadly, very, very deadly. So, I mean, I am super grateful. That is a gift in it right there. Another gift is a co-parent who truly does put his kids first. And I mean, gosh, I'll just say this, on that weekend or whatever, I guess it was Sunday through, we just got home last night, Tuesday. It's awesome to see how Chris and I can get along. And I know that's not normal. with co-parenting families, co-parents inside of divorced families. I am so insanely grateful. And I mean, I'll go back to the appendicitis in a minute, but for me to be able to walk in a hotel, a hospital room and have Chris just give such a warm welcome and we are not catty with each other, especially around the kids. We might have something here and there, but just to make it such a positive environment and experience for the kids is a gift. And I know, like I said, I know that that's not normal, but, so yeah, I spent the evening, I think I was in the hospital with Cash until about 1 a.m. There was only one couch. So Chris slept on the couch with Cash. I went to a hotel room. And then when they checked out the next day, we had to stay in Fort Lauderdale for an additional 24 hours before Cash could fly home. So we ended up getting a nicer hotel that I got for a steal on kayak.com. It was like through another site, but Kayak was the one that found the site. But the Grand Pelican, I think it's called the Grand Pelican or the Pelican Grand Resort, was so nice. The kids loved it. Cash actually didn't get much use from it. By the time we got to the hotel, he was asleep the entire time, but they had this great lazy river that Ruby went to, and Chris and I were down there hanging out with her, and Grandma and Grandpa got to hit the beach that was right by it. So we did have a great time, and Cash did heal really nicely. Now, I don't want to go into this on the podcast because this kind of goes into the next lesson. Here we go. The next lesson, okay, is not everything deserves a response or a reaction. And I am still working on that. Not everything deserves a response or reaction, and I am still working on that. You know, I'm not usually fazed by media. And I don't know if it was the vulnerable state that I was in as I was flying from North Dakota to Fort Lauderdale, but I was in... I think we were in Minneapolis for a layover. And as I'm sitting there, I'm having this article sent to me, text after text after text, people saying, I'm so sorry. Hey, you were mentioned in this article, blah, blah, blah. And I usually won't read. And I did. And because I didn't do what I normally do, which is not read, I was triggered. And there was a lot that it stirred up a lot of emotion, a lot of sadness, a lot of wish and desire that things could have been different for someone I really, really cared about. And it wasn't. And wish and desire for people who are on this planet to dig up dirt to change. And they're not going to. They're not going to change. Like, if everyone who maliciously tried to bury other people changed into kindness, this world wouldn't have the balance that it needs. And so I have to remember that we need the darkness to balance the light. We need the maliciousness to balance the kindness. We need the disrespect to balance the respect, right? This world that we live in is actually in perfect balance. And I did something I don't know that I'm glad I did. I responded to it. I reacted and I responded. And then after I responded, I was like, maybe I should take this down. But I think once it's out there, you know, and that is something I learn every painful experience is like when you put feathers out in the wind, you can't take them back. Right? And sometimes taking back what you say is worse than just letting it be. I do know that my intention, what I had said was very kind. And I just am, again, I'm just sad. I'm sad that people can't let bygones be bygones, that they can't let the deceased rest in peace, and that they can't, live their own lives. But then I realized that for me, when I am feeding that, when I'm responding, when I am paying any attention to those people who don't deserve my energy, I am actually taking energy away from where it needs to be the most. And that became apparent because my energy spent that day focused on this thing that I cannot change, focused on someone who has passed, right? My energy was so focused on that it actually pulled away from the energy I should have been spending on what and who was right in front of me, right? Who is still living, who is giving me time, attention, and love, right? Who is willing to change or be better. And so that it did cause some issues over the weekend. And it was something where in my moments of self-reflection, I realized that I need to be wiser and I need to be smarter about where and how I'm spending my energy. And I want, again, I'm telling everyone this because this is, I think, a lesson we can all learn is understand what deserves a reaction and a response and use your energy wisely as you respond, or if you do. Use your energy wisely no matter what, because we only have so much of it. It actually made me do a whole inventory of, am I giving my time and my energy to the people and the things that deserve it? Or am I paying most of my time and my energy to the things that don't deserve it, the people that don't deserve it, and to the things that are pulling me down instead of helping me grow and live the life that I want to live? So that was another realization. Another one. This is number 4. Every single up is followed by a down. Every single high is followed by a low, because you guys, I swear, the week prior was so great. There was so much goodness going on, and it was like this. The shiz hit the fan, and it was one thing after another. It was cash. It was this. It was truly one thing after another that was happening. And when I sit inside of those places, and then I came home, right? And then I was overwhelmed when I got home because I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed all of these days. I have so many things to do. I don't have enough time to do it. I was going to go do this breathwork certification course this weekend. It's a 4-day, all-day thing. And now I'm like, I can't do it because I got a Christmas shop for my kids. I actually have to make my house ready for them when they come home. I have a ton of work things left to do. And my week did not go as planned. I was, in Fort Lauderdale taking care of the thing that mattered the most. But yeah, it did throw my week off. So every single high is followed by a low. And the reverse is also true. Every single low is inevitably followed by a high. I love this. I love it. Yes, on one hand, it is saying, yeah, when you're on cloud 9, hey, you should have the realistic expectation that you're going to be down. Right? And I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. I'm a realist. I love that realization. The reason why I love that realization is because it also means when I'm in a low, I know without a shadow of a doubt, even though my gut wants to tell me differently, right? Like my short-sightedness at that moment says, oh my gosh, Heidi, you're going to be stuck here forever. You're always going to be miserable. You're always going to be sick, whatever it is. I know better enough to know that there is a high on the other side of it. One of my favorite sayings is every single breakdown leads to a breakthrough. Every one of them. So even in this place that I'm in, that I started this podcast in, I don't even know how many minutes ago, 33 minutes ago, even this place that I was in when I started, I knew that breakdown, like that was the tail end of my breakdown. And I knew better than to know that just turning on a microphone, journaling my thoughts down, sharing those with you guys will be the thing to help lead me to a breakthrough. It really is that simple. But I want to say this. It is very important that you let yourself feel the pain when you are in the breakdown, and do not make yourself wrong. One of the worst things you can do is make yourself wrong for feeling down. That is a normal part of this thing we call being human. We are going to feel down. And when we feel down, we're going to think we're wrong. We're not wrong. It is so right. And the more you can detach good, bad, right, and wrong from how you feel, and just accept it for how it is, like let it be what it is, the quicker you will pass through to the other side, to that breakthrough that is indeed waiting for you. And then keep in mind that every breakthrough on the other side of it, it's a freaking breakdown. What the heck? It is. But also, this is where the gifts are. If I had not experienced that breakdown, right? Breakdowns, plural. If I hadn't had the moment today where I was like, my hair is wrong, I have too much to do, Cash just had an appendectomy, crap hit the fan here. If I didn't have this breakdown moment, I would not have taken the time to jot down those notes, the things that I see as the gifts in the hard. And those for me are the most valuable parts of my life. Those for me, I believe, because of all of the hard that I've endured and I've pushed through. And I know the same is for you. For every single person listening, the hardest moments of your life are the moments that at the end of it, on the other side of it, you are and will be more grateful for who you are because of it. Because that's where growth happens. Growth happens inside of pain. Diamonds are created by pressure, right? And we are made our best through our challenges. Okay, so number 5, realization number 5, cruises are not meant for our family. And maybe this is a limiting belief, but it's really interesting how when I was 18, our family decided to go on a cruise. And we flew to California where we were going to set sail. And the night before we left, similar to Cash, we got a call that my uncle had died, who we were all very close with. And, my dad then had said, okay, we're not going on a cruise. I don't want a cruise to jinx our family. And I know, who knows if it's real or not. And then a similar thing happened. My brother and his wife were going on a cruise. I don't know. This must have been, I don't even know, 10 years later. And the night before, they had gotten a call that my dad was in the hospital, life-threatening issues in the hospital. And so they watched their cruise set sail as they came to tend to my dad. And here we are again with Cash. The night before they leave on a cruise, appendectomy. So there's something that's like, man, is God trying to keep us off of cruise ships for now? I don't know. Or maybe God is just trying to remind us that life is very short and our intuition is subtle, but it's there. And that we actually need to listen when we're prompted. Whatever it is, I'm so grateful. Lesson number 6. When it rains, it pours, and it is meant to be that way. It doesn't just freaking sprinkle. When it sprinkles, it starts to rain, and then the rain turns to pour, and then it's like torrential, right? And I do believe it's meant to be that way. I really do. And I think this is actually what happens. I don't know that it necessarily pours. I think what happens is when something happens that shifts our perspective from positive to negative, we put on poop emoji glasses. I actually have some poop emoji glasses that I would use for lessons for my show up groups. And they were so beautiful because what happens, so I'm going to give you this example. Well, I'll just say when you put those poop emoji glasses on, all you see is the crap in everything in front of you. You really struggle to see the rose-colored things. Now, when we can figure out how to take those dang glasses off and put on rose-colored glasses where everything we see through those heart-shaped rose-colored glasses, which I have a pair of these too, and I use them for lessons. But everything we see with those rose-colored glasses is rosy, and it's beautiful with a shade of pink, and it's bright, and we see a heart in front of us, right? That is how life is. It's kind of like when you decide you want to get a new car, and you're set on a Jeep Grand Cherokee. What happens? What happens is every single car you see on the road is a Jeep Grand Cherokee. You're like, oh my gosh, there's another one. There's another one. I've never seen so many. It's a sign. Well, what's crazy is the same amount of Jeep Grand Cherokees have always been cruising the streets, but we just did not have on the lens to see them. We weren't actually looking for them. I love this realization because it surely does mean the same in our lives. When we put on rose-colored glasses and we start our day in gratitude, or we practice gratitude, or we jot down a list like I just did of 8 gifts inside of the heart, right? What I just did there is I put on rose-colored glasses in the shape of hearts. So now that I've experienced gratitude, I'm practicing gratitude everywhere I look. I'm able to see it through a lens of gratitude. I'm not kidding you. From the beginning of starting this podcast to now, my heart is in a different place. It works that quickly and that immediately. It's not a numbing agent. It is actually a change agent. It is something that took off those poop emoji glasses that I had on all week. Everything felt hard. I had them on. I was not living in gratitude. I was grateful that my son was alive, but I was in fear. I was living in fear of something happening to Cash, fear of this, fear of not being able to control the narrative of a man who I loved, right? Not being able to have everyone see his heart. Fear of when I got home, oh my gosh, what if I'm not enough with shorter, darker hair, with less hair? All of this fear and this insecurity, every single thing, poop emoji. And I guarantee if I would not have sat down and jotted this list, if I would not have hit record to do this podcast, the next room I walked into, I would have had those same poop emoji glasses on. And my wound, right? Remember we talked earlier about the wound, my suppressed emotion that was infecting my soul? It would have bled all over whoever was there, because that's what we do as humans. That is what we do. So I think when it rains, it pours, because God wants us to get to a place where we go put on a rain jacket, or we step inside. Or we shift from the poop emoji glasses to the heart emoji glasses. I think he wants us to get to a place where we fall to our knees and we ask for help. And when we fall to our knees and we ask for help and we pray, what do we do when we pray? We say thank you. We start each prayer by thanking God or whoever you pray to for the things that we have, right? Immediately shifting to an attitude of gratitude. Okay. Number 7 is the to-do list will always be there. This is a whole other podcast, because I find myself, you guys, pushing off what I know I want in my life forever, which is a healthy partnership and a family. I find myself pushing that off for what I believe I need to get done now. I tell myself this lie that I don't have time for a man or a relationship because I have 4 kids and I need to work. When I really peel down what I need to do versus what I think I need to do, or I fool myself to believe that I need to do, they are 2 different things. Yes, I do have to work. Yes, I do have to provide for my family. And yes, I tend to make myself feel busier than I actually am. And a lot of the busyness, a lot of the busyness is a result of me spinning inside of anxiety and inside of fear. That spinning and that overwhelm, right? It causes a feeling of, I don't have time for anything. I need to be alone. I actually had my therapist yesterday. Really great appointment with my therapist. And I said, sometimes I just don't know if if I'm ready right now for a relationship, or do I not have enough time to embark upon this part of my life? And she was like, Heidi, you're lying to yourself when you say that what you need to do is everything on your to-do list. You're lying to yourself when you say, I just need to disappear and chip away at my life, and then someday I'll be happy. She said, I can guarantee you that to-do list will always be there. No matter how much you chip away at, no matter how many times you have to go away and save your kid in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, no matter you go on a date or not, that to-do list will be there, and it will never, ever, ever get done. And it's always going to be this nagging lie that it is more important than the things that will lead you to long-term joy and peace. Oh, that was such a good realization for me. The eighth thing. I kind of went through this at the beginning, so I'm going to combine them into one because it is. I had it typed out. Once again, hair does not define me. And I'm going to combine that because it goes with what I said at the beginning, that while I have come so far in my life at 41, not too far from 42, I acknowledge that I still have a ways to go to achieve total self-acceptance. And also, I'm so proud of where I'm at. I'm so proud of the fact that I have the awareness to know this, because I think at any other point in my life, I wouldn't have even known, you know? So to be in a place where I've worked enough on myself, which is the result of the challenges that I've been through, it is actually a gift. It is a gift. I am thanking God today for a harder than usual weekend. I know that it could have been worse. And I know that you guys listening are going through your own hard. And I want you to know that my heart goes out to you. Whether your hard felt more significant than mine, or maybe it felt more insignificant than mine, hard is hard is hard. And it's relative. And it doesn't matter how big or small the hard thing is that you're going through. It matters. And you matter. And if there's anything I can ask you to do in this space, is to not judge yourself for how you're handling things. We're all going to mess up. We're all going to stumble. We're all going to fall. We're going to say things. We're going to react when maybe we feel like we shouldn't have. And then we're going to remember that that's how we learn. That's how we learn. So whatever hard thing you're going through today, I want to challenge you to get out a piece of paper, pull out a note on your phone. And right now, I want you to do your best to find the beautiful gift inside of what is so excruciatingly painful. I promise you it is there. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. There are no exceptions to this. And just like anything, it takes practice to get good at seeing it. Thanks for being here with me today. How long did this therapy session go? 48 minutes? I feel like I should bill you all. You guys should bill me an hour. I love you. I hear you. I see you. I loved hanging out with you on my bedroom floor, and I'll talk to you next time.